We've spent the past weeks learning about transformations of functions. We spent a few weeks learning about h and k, and the past couple weeks just looking at the a value. We're going to start putting all of those together to identify transformations of functions. So you're going to be doing a worksheet. I just want to explain what it's going to look like and also go over the different types of transformations. So when you're doing these problems, you not only need to identify A, H, and K, but you also need to describe the transformation. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So here's our first equation. We're going to identify our A value. Remember that A is always after the equal sign. When I look after this equal sign, all I see is a negative. So what could my A value be? It's going to be -1. I see the negative sign, but if you don't see a number, it means it's a 1. When your graph is negative, it will reflect over the x-axis. It is not going to stretch or compress because a 1 is no change. It stretches if it's a larger number and it compresses if it's a fraction or decimal. So our graph will just reflect. Now I'm going to identify the h value. The h is always connected to x, and it's going to be in those absolute value signs. So I see x plus 5. What do you always have to remember when you're naming the h value? You need to name it with the opposite sign. So because it says x plus 5, I'm going to identify it as a minus or -5. When my h is negative, it means my graph is going to move left, and in this case, it will move left 5. Finally, I'm going to identify the vertical translation. So K tells me if my graph's going to move up or down. So K you name as you see it. So K is 3, and that means my graph is going to move up 3. Let's look at another problem. All right, so what's our A value here? It's a half. I'm actually going to type it in with the equation button. If you hit new equation, in this right math operations, you can make a little fraction. So it is a half. What happens when your graph is a fraction like a half? So it will compress or get wider. It's going to compress by a half. What is our horizontal translation here? What number is our h? It's going to be a +9 because we name it with the opposite sign, and that means it's going to move right. Finally, our k is 1, and that means our graph will move up. Now you're going to try some practice.